Hey blues fans, John here with the Blues Guitar Institute, and this is your Tuesday Blues lesson number 42. Alright, today we're going to talk about 7th chords, and as funny as it may seem, all of those different chords that I just played are all different versions of an A7 chord. And the first time I figured out that you can play an A7 chord in tons of different places on the neck, it blew my mind. So I'm hoping that this lesson will kind of demystify a little bit of that for you. But what I want to do to help you do that is to start way back at the basics. And if you'll remember, we're going to work with A here. So if you'll remember your A major scale, and we're just playing it right here at the center of the neck. And if you remember your study of triads, you know that we can form a major chord based off of that major scale with the root, third, and fifth. And then we have this nice, happy, complete sounding chord with 3 notes called the triad. Alright, well today we're going to layer one more thing in there to make this thing sound a whole lot more bluesy. And that's the 7th, to add the A7. And if you count up and use the same sort of technique, you would think that we need this G sharp note because we keep saying 7, 7, 7. Well, this is the 7th of the major scale. But there's one thing that we just kind of leave out when we talk about 7s, and at least with A7, is that it's technically called an A dominant 7th chord. We just leave it out for short and say A7. But what that dominant means is really just taking this 7th and not playing it here at the G sharp, but flattening it a half step to the G. Now, basically, flattening just means decreasing in pitch by a half step, or on the guitar, we would just think of that as 1 fret. So all that boils down to, these are the notes that you need for an A7 to be formed, and that's the root, the third, the fifth, and the flat 7th. Put all that together and we just call that an A7. Now check that chord out. Notice I didn't play that when I played those few A7 chords, and that's because this thing is a bit of work to get down, and it's not commonly played, at least not for a lot of bluesmen, and certainly not by me. Maybe some jazz folks you know, pick this out, but not this guy. Anyway, the point is, I really wanted you to hear these pitches in ascending order, so you can hear what this 7th, this flat 7th, really does to this chord. That's your major triad, real nice, clean, happy sound. Now check it out with this 7th thrown in there. Can you hear there's a little something just kind of unstable about it now, something interesting, and it's this G note here. It just paints this chord in such a different picture than just the plain major triad. And I really think that this note here, in reference to the A7 chord, gives the blues a lot of its sound. So super, super important. But as you know, and as I mentioned, we're not hopping in and out of this baby very frequently. So that's why we're able to reorder those notes. The root, which is the A, the C sharp, which is the third, the E, which is the fifth, and the flat 7th, which is the G, and play them in different positions on the neck. And as long as we're playing those, then we technically have an A7 chord. So take this one for instance. That's probably your most basic, very comfortable to play, and just kind of your go-to A7 chord. And it consists of the root, the fifth, the flat 7, the third, and another 5th on top. So I want to pause here and listen that that same sound is really in there. That sort of unstableness that I was talking about when we listened to this guy here. It's still there, and it's because of this G note ringing, and that's giving it the chord quality. And you can move on, and we can reorder those notes even more and play the root 5th octave, 3rd and 7th, and get kind of a different quality. And so as you see, we're using the same notes, but we might order them a little bit differently just to play in some different spots on the neck. And that is such a cool concept that's really going to open you up on the fretboard, because if you're playing an A, you can groove right here, here, or even up here, and you still have that A7 really bluesy sound going on. So check out the tab for this lesson, because I'm going to put in a couple of exercises covering different chords, so that you can see different chords in different keys, so G7, E7, things like that. It'll be a good practice sheet for you, but take some time, grab your guitar and strum through different versions of these 7th chords. They're highly usable, so really dig in. In my personal opinion, there are no bluesier chords than 7th chords. They're just used so much throughout the blues. So I really want you to take this little bit of theory, this chord theory, and really take it to heart, because it's going to help you all over the fretboard in your chording, and believe it or not, it's going to help you a lot in your little lead licks and things like that, and even improvising. So we'll talk about some of those topics later, but this is the real meat of studying the blues sound, is getting those 7th chords down. So I hope you dig this lesson. Of course, if you got any questions, just shoot me an email, john@bluesguitarinstitute.com. I'll be happy to help you. Study up, practice up, and I'll see you next week.